that team and Dyson Maeda and probably Bernardo at the weekend, that's fine. Underneath that,
centre half is a glaring red alarm crisis.
I don't really want to bring Ben Doak back on loan.
There's not terrible players. There are a couple of players here and there, but there's no...
Some terrible players. Welcome to this week's episode of 20 Minute Tims. I'm your host Jamie. I'm joined by Melly.
yes.
And Stephen.
Hello.
And listen, before we get into the podcast, I just want to quickly tell you about patreon.com/20minutetims. That's how you can support this podcast. You get extra videos, extra podcasts, extra writing, and you can even watch this ad-free. Patreon.com/20minutetims is how you support us and produce the best Celtic content we can. Stephen, talking about producing the best content with what's available, that's both us and what Brendan Rodgers is doing.
Yeah.
Because, you know, before we sat down, we were trying to find new ways to talk about the transfer window. You know, a peek behind the curtain here as you go, how can you sit down and say, it's Groundhog Day again, nothing's happened? But the manager is just doing the best of what he's got, because the board have delivered no new toys for him, and we've got 2 flagships left before the transfer window's over.
Yeah, I mean, we're 1 week away from attempting the approach of let's just ignore it and hope everything turns out all right in the morning, rather than talk about the transfer window at all. But yeah, the time is ticking on. It'd be very disingenuous to sit here and come at it from a different angle, given that we sat here last week talking about how nothing's really happening. Now we're a week on. And the problem with a transfer window isn't that you're just a week on, you're also a week out.
Yeah.
Now you're running out of time. So, but with the good performance in the interim, we've had another very good performance, another clean sheet, another win. Top of the league, looking down on everyone else at this time. So, yeah, cannot complain in that regard, but there's still some business needing done.
I don't know who's had the easier job of it, the lightest work, the lowest workload. It's either CASSSHHHHSPUR or the Celtic recruitment team. Both of those guys have barely lifted a finger all summer rather.
I know, it's getting to the stage. I was thinking about it at the weekend there, and I was like, maybe I'm the problem. Maybe I just need to accept that this is what Celtic are. They're not a serious football club. And I was starting to think, maybe I just need to accept that this is the way they're going to be. And then I listened to you guys on the phone in, and you were breaking down how much money you've spent on a season ticket, and then they're going to hit us with the Champions League package. And I'm not accepting it. I'm not accepting it. It's no good enough.
I was thinking about that as well. You're basically $1,000 a year to support Celtic, aren't you?
Minimum.
That gets you in the door.
That's to turn up.
Yeah.
That's to turn up. That's no travel, any other associated expenses with taking people along to
Or
the
buying
game.
one of those delicious kebab pies.
Yeah, correct. We should really be sponsored by them by now.
I don't know who makes the kebab pies, but you send us some freebies. Absolutely delicious.
This has been a relentless campaign, a promotional campaign from us for the kebab pies.
The best bit of recruitment the club's done in ages.
Yeah.
Recruited the kebab pie maker.
Still not enough of them either, but so they're still getting it wrong.
I was thinking about the cost thing as well. Yeah, it's £1,000 basically.
Yeah.
That's minimum. That's entry to
Yes.
watch Celtic. It's £1,000, so you can understand why people are getting a bit antsy about it now. Look, there is still a long time left. In terms of transfer, things happen all the time, and some transfer dominoes across Europe might start to fall, which means Matt O'Reilly will go, which means the person we want will come in and all that sort of stuff. But that's textbook wishful thinking. But one thing Celtic have done, they seem to be getting Stephen decent money in for the outgoings. BOSUN LAWAL just walked out the door for between 2 and 3 million. He went to Stoke. On the face of it, that doesn't seem like a very important transfer, because he's a bit part player. He's hardly contributed from Celtic. He'd sort of
2 appearances on the range, maybe. Yeah.
He was out on loan at Fleetwood last year, did okay, some glimpses in the pre-season games against Queen's Park and Ayr. People thought, this guy might be onto something, they might get a chance. It never seemed like he was ever going to break through, but one, it's a decent fee to get for a player that's basically a bit part player for us. 2, he did come with a good reputation from Watford. And 3, another talking point is that B team doesn't seem to be producing an awful lot.
Well, really, he's the only thing approaching a success story from the B team so far. I mean, it's been going a few years now. Seems to have kind of dried up. I know some teams have pulled out of that system altogether, but Celtic are still playing in it for now. But he's the only. He was the guy that you hear about.
Yeah.
Obviously, he was a signing in the way as well, but he was the guy that you hear about along the lines of going back a few generations. So you had Karamoko in previous years, who was the guy you hear about, the guy whose name who was kind of whispered as being the next big thing. Then, like, you go back more years, Kieran Tierney, Aidan McGee, these teenagers that you hear about before they emerge.
Yeah.
BOSUN LAWAL was one of those guys. But I'm not getting hysterical about there's no pathway, there's no point in young players being at this club. It's just a thing that's worked out. They've taken a deal where they can. They've obviously just decided there's no space for him in the squad. Midfield's pretty stacked. He seems to be more primed for that than centre-half that he was in previous years. But I did look at it and I think, does Celtic exist in some sort of alternative reality? Because I saw the fee, and it's not ridiculous money, but 2 million or whatever it is for a player who is going to play no part this season.
Never started a game, has
No,
he?
no, I can't remember if he has. Maybe one of those, probably appeared in one of those games towards the end of one of the league campaigns with Ange. I can't really remember, but we're getting money like that in for him, and maybe just over that for O, whatever it was reported at the time, 3-point-something million euros with potential add-ons. But yet we're failing to spend it. We're failing to, we want that kind of money and get that kind of money in for guys who have no place in the squad whatsoever. But when it comes to trying to improve the squad, we think we bulk at like 3.5-4 million, and we think, oh no, we can't pay that for a player. Meanwhile, we're shipping off these guys for about that kind of money. It's
so the
insane
difference
to me.
in getting Idah and not getting Idah was a player at the fee you get for a player that you're never going to play anyway. It was like it was basically free money. Celtic sort of exist in a lot of a limbo though, don't they, Millie? Because it seems like the Rocco Vata example and Ben Doak and these other guys that we bring through the academy who are too good for Celtic, leave, we can't keep them. And then the guys that we ship in and bring into the academy from other clubs just never become good enough to actually play for Celtic. So it's this weird situation where one way or another, the Celtic's academy just seems to exist to produce professional footballers for clubs that aren't Celtic.
Yeah, we're sort of in a difficult situation because the Ben Doak thing, he was playing at 16, he leaves, and now it seems like he's up for transfer at Liverpool. BOSUN LAWAL, everybody thought this could be the guy, and it just doesn't seem to work out. But to go out and get good money for him is good. We're sort of, I don't know where we're going with this. There's players, Rocco Vata, from what I've seen of him, I didn't really ever get the feeling he was going to be a Celtic player, yet he's went down to Watford and he's getting decent money down there. Fair play to him. So the academy's not quite doing what it should be, but at the same time, players are getting taken away from it earlier, so we're making money that way. But as you say, like, we're bringing in decent money, we're just not giving it out there, and it just seems like Celtic they're backwards now.
It seems like this sort of B team youth situation, it's cropping up time and time again, because we mentioned Ben Doak today. I don't know how much there is in it, but Liverpool seem to be having a bit of a restructure of their youth players. There's a number of guys we've been linked to down there. Ben Doak was one of them initially. It was on loan. Then it turns out that maybe Ben Doak might be for sale. I was of the opinion that I don't really want to bring Ben Doak back on loan. I know there's a debate to be had about loaning young players for other teams, right? And I can understand if you loan an exceptional young player and he improves your team, then that I can completely get that. See, he's a guy that's, some Barcelona youngster that's going to be worth 80 million quid or 40 million pound. I just didn't see the value in loaning back Ben Doak if we were never going to be able to sign him when we've got other players there in our team who, one, can play, two, who's probably only marginally better than, and three, just to give him back down to Liverpool. If it's a purchase, if Ben Doak's available to buy, Stephen, then I would be up for that, but I'm not really interested in taking players on loan just to improve them and hand them back to Liverpool at the level of Ben Doak.
Yeah, well, that depends. I think you're right. There are different levels to that. Of course, some of the players that Man City give out on loan are like generational talents, and we've been linked to a lot of them over the years, whether it's McAtee or maybe even Palmer when he was a bit younger as well. These guys are obviously going to go on to be top-class players. But I know what you mean about the Ben Doak thing. That he's still very young, but he is one of those guys who was kind of spoken about as being like the next generational talent at Celtic. It's just that he was stolen away just as he was about to make the breakthrough, although he did make that couple of appearances at 16. So it would be a hard pill for people to swallow as well, given that he did take the contract on offer at a different club and then after a couple of years ends up back at Celtic. I think a lot of people would be probably quite annoyed about that. Yeah, again, I don't think anyone's done anything wrong, though. I think that that would just be one of those. Yeah, it's one of those things. What we need to remember is that, yes, Ben Doak might have grown up a Celtic fan, but he was also of an age where he would have seen Mo Salah lift the Champions League just a few years ago. He would have been probably 12 or something like that when he saw that, and then gets the opportunity to go and play with that guy under Jurgen Klopp. And right, so I understand the temptation to take that deal, but I think a lot of people would be a little bit fed up with that because not because it's him, but because of the whole thing surrounding the academy, the B team, about no producing any players. And then we do produce one, he leaves and then ends up back on loan. So it's a bit of a tough one.
I can't quite articulate it, but you're right. It is a bitter pill to swallow.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, so you don't want to. We're good enough for you to come and play for us, but you don't want to stay with us.
It's a hard one because I get what you're saying, but see if he is better than our players. We need somebody better than our players, don't we?
Well, does he though? Because this is, I suppose, the argument where, so if Ben Doak and you've got Yang, for example, we paid money for Yang, we've got Yang on the books, we're paying his wages. If he's only marginally better than what we've got, then you're better off sticking with the one you own.
Before we go any further, I don't know about marginally. I can't measure that because I've only seen Ben Doak play a couple of times for Celtic. But I would wager that even though he's only had fleeting appearances, the number of appearances that Yang would make for Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool would be rounding up 0. So he has had a little bit of experience of the first team down there. So I'd be fairly confident he's better than Yang.
Yeah, I think he'll be better than Yang. I think the problem with Yang is he doesn't have the basics, and I think Ben Doak, that's what we've got at Liverpool, and he was already a good player.
So they just ship Yang out then? I'm just playing devil's advocate here because I don't really care whether or not we keep Yang or not. I just want the best Celtic team. But I would see you're just creating another problem for yourself by loaning in a player for a year and sidelining Yang. You're just like, well, you might as well just sell him, just let him go as well.
Well, they'll take him, but that's a problem, isn't it? He's got 4 years left in his deal. So that's what we're trying to do here. Like with Ben Doak, it's small rumours, but maybe it's Liverpool. It seems to be if it's something that's going on down in England that teams are looking and bringing through players and just selling them on for a lot of money. It seems to be a very lucrative market down there, and I'm like, we can't even take advantage of that because those players are so far out of our price bracket as well. So it's difficult for Celtic. They're making it much more difficult for themselves. But if you're asking me, is it a choice between Ben Doak and Yang? I know what I'm getting with Yang, so I'd take Ben Doak all day, man.
Another thing that crops to mind when you're talking about these B team things and the youth players is Brendan Rodgers a couple of weeks ago, and the lack of transfers. Brendan Rodgers a couple of weeks ago was saying, I want 2 strikers in. He goes, because the plan was to have 3. It was to have KYOGO, someone else, and Rocco Vata would be my young striker and get him minutes. He goes, but Rocco decided to move on, and that's absolutely fine. But now I need 2 strikers in. Fast forward to last week, and Brendan Rodgers said, God willing, and he actually did that with his hands. He goes, God willing, we can get 1 or 2 in before the window closes. And you think, the math isn't mathing, Brendan. Now, I know you're reluctant to put numbers on it, but I'm already feeling like we're having our expectations tempered here because Brendan Rodgers says, I want 1 or 2 in. Hopefully we can get 1 or 2 in and improve the team before the window closes. And I thought, no, because you already said you want 2 strikers and we need 1 left back. So that's 3. So right away, Melly, his 1 or 2 in before the end of the window is no adding up to the 3 that he's already on record saying he needs.
He better have meant 1 or 2 strikers.
Yeah.
I think if we bring in a winger, it means Dyson Maeda can play up there. But again, we're doing this, aren't we? Even at the game on Sunday, I was like, you know what? Greg Taylor's having a great game. Maybe we could just bring in a backup for him. And I'm like, nah, because we're just kicking the can down the road. And then next summer, we're going to be needing a goalkeeper as well because CASSSHHHHSPUR will probably retire. So we need to go out and do something. It's getting to the point now where the amount of things we need to do, you're chipping away going, maybe we could get away with him. Maybe
I've been doing it myself.
Get away with that. And I'm like,
negotiating with myself.
I'm like, why are we doing this? Because, well, the club come out and they're trying to temper our expectations for this big the financial results coming out as well. And Peter Lawwell was on it in February about like we weren't happy with what happened and hopefully that won't happen again. Yet right now we still need 5 players in 3 weeks.
I read an interesting thing recently about what Peter Lawwell used to say, and I remember when I read it, right, I remembered him saying it. He used to always say, every penny gets reinvested in the club. Every penny that comes in, we spend, we reinvest it. There's not a big pile of cash sitting somewhere that we're not spending. And now, you're like, say, how much money have you got in the bank?
Come on.
100 million. How much money have you got in the bank? I've got 100 million in the bank. Spend it. You need to spend it.
I've been having the same negotiations with myself that everyone in this room has been having. The closer we get to the deadline, I'm now like, do we really need a winger? KÜHN's looking really good. I think we can maybe just close that one off. See the third striker thing, I don't know if that's a little bit of Brendaning going on because that, to all intents and purposes, the third striking position doesn't really exist to any great degree, because that, in a Celtic matchday squad, won't even get you on the bench. Celtic aren't going to put 3 strikers in the squad. It would be KYOGO, another, hopefully Adam Idah, any minute now, hopefully by the time we've recorded. Nobody else is going to get on the bench. And then I would put any money on, if both of those guys were injured at the same time, and I know Adam Idah isn't a Celtic player at the moment, but if both of those guys were injured, Dice and Idah would play up front.
I think that the point is, though, to be a proper football club and a properly well-run football club, you need talent, and you need money, and also probably what you want is 3 players for every position, and what that would be was 2 players who are almost pretty much interchangeable in terms of ability and profile. So you drop one out, you drop the next guy in, and it's not a huge drop-off. And then hopefully a young player that you can get some minutes throughout. And I think that's maybe what Brendan was saying. He goes, look, ideal world here, and there's no reason why I shouldn't be living in an ideal world, because I'm a superstar manager, managing a club with lots and lots of money. I want 2 good strikers, and I want a young guy. So if one of those guys sell, I'm getting him minutes throughout the season.
Yeah, just roughly speaking, though, that's 33 players, though, you're managing. So I don't think it would be the same for every position. But I take the point. I know what he means. But I reckon from Rocco Vata's point of view, he probably looked at that and thought, position isn't a real thing. I want to be playing, and I probably never will if I'm offered the third striking position. So all that to say is that's, to me, I know that is out there. I know Brendan Rodgers has said it, but that's a negotiable for me. I'm not so bothered with that. There are positions in the squad that I'm very, very worried about as we hurtle towards deadline day. Left back is clearly one. I'm bored talking about it now, but if it bears repeating, we've only got one at the club, right?
We need to get some back up for Greg Taylor. That guy can't play every single game at all times forever.
Centre half is a glaring red alarm crisis for me as well, because we've got one very, very good one of the best we've ever seen at the club in our lifetimes, right? But around about that, there's nothing else. Right? Scales, I don't want to do that already in the season.
He was good against Kelly.
Yep, he was.
But he was Liam Scales against Hibs.
Yeah, it was quite poor against Hibs. So, but even that to say that, even if Liam Scales can play to his ceiling, which he did against Kilmarnock, it's still not enough. I don't mean it's not enough for him. I mean it's not enough for a squad to have those 2 and Stephen Welsh. So the fact that Celtic don't even really, no one's asking about centre halves, no one's asking about left backs. It's all just Adam Idah, and my worry is that I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. My worry is that it's all hands on Adam Idah to get this deal done, and nothing else is happening.
I do worry a wee bit, Melly, that the big red flashing warning sign is Matt O'Reilly's going to go, and we're not linked with a soul to replace the guy. We have not been linked with a central midfielder all summer long.
Oh, that's not just that problem, but we're not linked to a central midfielder, Bar Bernardo, who was already in the door. I'm not seeing links to centre halves. I'm not seeing links to left backs, and I'm not really seeing links to wingers either. And I'm like, these to me are all essential. And I'm going, right, okay, so we've taken this long to get Bernardo in. Idah seems to be taking long. Imagine Matt O'Reilly goes late on. What are we going to do? All of a sudden, we go, right, it took us 2 months to do those 2 deals. So if he goes now, we can get him in October, window shut. And I look at it in England, and you're trying not to compare down there because it's a totally different ball game. But I'm looking at teams finding all these angles and all these ways and these dodgy sort of deals to try and spend as much money as they possibly can. And we are sitting here figuring out ways to, how can we put out a statement showing we've got too much money in the bank? And I don't get it. And then I'm looking at different players going, what if he goes? And I just like, I can't understand how this is going. And watching it sort of, you're kind of waiting for these dominoes to fall into place. But what difference does Dominic Solanke going to Tottenham do for us? How far down are we that's going to change? And
well,
just to finish off, it seemed to me last week that this time last week, Spurs hadn't really been linked with Dominic Solanke. This time last week, Chelsea hadn't even had a sniff around Pedro Neto. Yet I hear about it one day and they're signed the next day. And I'm going, this isn't hard. It's not hard to go out and buy footballs. I know they are big moneyed players, but it's filtering down. It is not hard to go out and get the players you want, yet we seem to be making it difficult.
Stephen, right? This is Celtic's transfer conundrum. You'll get this, right? What's this? Clever girl.
Yeah, that's I can't remember the character name, but that is Jurassic Park, of course, yeah.
Right, and what is that? What am I acting out there? I'm acting out the thing you don't see coming from the left-hand side. So we're all concentrating on Matt O'Reilly going, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the KYOGO
the
transfer.
attack comes from the side.
That's the KYOGO transfer.
Yeah.
This guy's just changed agent. Melly says, oh, well, Dominic Solanke, what's that got to do with Celtic? Well, what if Bournemouth go and buy Atalanta's striker and then Atalanta come in and try and get KYOGO, or all these wee chips moving about the board? And the problem is when you leave it so late, as you say, like, you don't get a chance to replace him. So everyone's looking at Matt O'Reilly. As you say, that's the known quantity. We know he's going to leave. This other Velociraptor here, this is a potential transfer that comes in at the 11th hour and you're absolutely snookered because you've no prepped yourself.
Brendan Rodgers also made an interesting point on the potential sale of Matt O'Reilly. Now, it's factually accurate. I don't disagree with it, but it was a little bit of an alarming thing to put out there in public as well, if subtle. What he said was that, people talk about, paraphrasing here, people talk about replacing Matt O'Reilly, but that's not going to be a £25 million player. If we sell Matt O'Reilly for the fee that we think we deserve, the replacement isn't going to be that. What you need to do is buy someone young, and didn't use the word cheap, but it's going to be an awful lot cheaper than 25 million, and try and develop him into Matt O'Reilly.
Yep.
So any notion that we have of, we sell Matt O'Reilly and we just go out and buy a guy for 15 million, a guy who's Champions League experience, who's top class, and he just slots into the team, that's not going to happen. It's going to be something from a very similar model. It's going to be a younger guy that comes in and they hope to develop him into a Matt O'Reilly.
What a find he was.
Yeah.
What a find, Matt O'Reilly. What? That's how you do transfer business. That was a tremendous bit of transfer business. Let's talk about Nicolas-GERRIT. Let's talk a little bit about the Hibs game. How much did you pay to get in the Hibs game this weekend, Melly?
£35.50.
And you know what? That sounds like a lot of money, but obviously Hibs thought, no, we don't want more £35.50 because I saw an image online. Hibs had put just a big bit of plastic tarpaulin over loads and loads of seats so Celtic fans couldn't buy them. It's the league that hates itself.
Yeah, it's the behaviour of fans. Just say football club. Come on, we all know it. It's not hard here.
Also, I like the reaction to anyone saying, oh, this is a bit pointless, isn't it? Put a big tarp over this instead of selling tickets. Hibs fans will jump on that and say, oh, the meltdown is glorious.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that's the real quiz, is it? As long as we're melting down about tickets, you're just sabotaging yourself left and right.
Just driving your
Look
club
at your
into
fullbacks. Tell me you couldn't get a better fullback with some extra money. Come on. But again, with Celtic, it's you're going along to the game. Lovely day yesterday. Great day for football. Celtic go out and do the business. Yet you're still finished after the game going, come on, man, come on. But on the pitch, great. And Nicholas KÜHN, like Stephen was saying, is like, I really hope he's good. Not just so that we've got a good footballer, just because we can't afford another dud on the thing, but he's looking sharp as anything. And there's, with him as well, he's looking really good right now. He's looking threatening. He's looking dangerous. Seems to know what he's doing. But also, I feel there's a lot more to come from him, a lot more sharpness. And I think if Brendan Rodgers was to, what is it, you sprinkle his fairy dust on him, you say, Steve?
Brendan dust.
Yep, get that Brendan dust on him. I think he could become clinical because he's got that, gets himself into dangerous areas. He beats the man, but he just, 3 or 4 times I was like, get the shot away early. And we've seen it the week before against Kilmarnock. The shot went in via a deflection, but it could ricochet to somebody or the shot could go in. I think if he could just be a bit more clinical, I think he could really get into double figures easily this season for goals and assists, judging by the start he's had.
I know this isn't how it works. You can't really combine the different assets and different sort of attributes of different players, but you'd love him to have a bit of the Abada about him, just ruthless in front of goal rather than kind of taking that extra touch, as Melly says, and maybe just dithering on it a wee bit. But that could come. That's something you can work on. That's something you can certainly coach. So hopefully Brendan Rodgers gets a hold of him.
I'm quite encouraged because I was quite down on KÜHN at the end of last season. I just thought the guy's not made any sort of impact here, but it seems like obviously
it was that season though, wasn't it? I think that season and the way Celtic were going about their business kind of ruined a lot of transfers for us because we got a bit annoyed about it at the time.
And I made the point that if he was on loan, you wouldn't keep him. You would nobody would be clamouring to keep him if he was on loan. But it seems like the pre-season has really done well for Nicholas KÜHN.
Aye, it's good getting players in for pre-season so they can learn what the manager wants to do. But he mentioned that after the game, like he said, I needed that pre-season. It got me sharper, and he said I felt a lot fitter, and he's looking stronger as well. But it's the sort of positions he's getting in. A lot of the time last season, when he was in games. Games were passing him by. He's imposing himself on games. He's taking players on, and he seems to have really built up that partnership with Alistair Johnston. And not just that, Matt O'Reilly goes out and forms that sort of triad out there for the three of them. And again, we're just looking at that might go at some point. So I think we've seen it from Matt O'Reilly. He was great out there with those two, and KÜHN as well with that. I think KYOGO, Brendan will probably talk about it later. Brendan Rodgers has told him about how was talking about how he's adapted these games. So the two of them up there along with Forrest were clinical, and it just felt like sort of Ange season 2, where it was like, right, here's a game at Easter Road, this might be tough, that's all right, we'll blow them away in the first half and then we'll see it out in the second half. It felt like that, whereas this time last season, if we were going to that game, I'd be really worried about it.
Don't want to lose that triad. I was wondering where you were going with that.
Yeah. Look, I think KÜHN's been a bit of a revelation so far, really. I think it's early days, and not in terms of his Celtic career. He's been here a wee while, but
he was the only one you could think of that could do that, wasn't he?
If we do just sort of park last season for a lot of these players and give them a fresh slate, it looks like he could be the one that could kick on. As sprinkled a little bit of Brendan fairy dust, a bit of Brendan dust on him. You thought it could be him, could be Lewis Palmer, maybe a bit of both, but I don't know what's happened to Lewis Palmer actually. It might just be that horrible tackle he took last week. I know he wasn't in the squad at all. So no, KÜHN looks very good. It just a wee bit better decision making in front of goal, and I think it could be a brilliant player.
Is Forrest here to stay? Are we just going to let him run his contract?
Like
I've got no problem with that, by the way.
No.
I think he's looked absolutely fit. He's not looked like... I feel like there's been a perception shift about James Forrest. I think before James Forrest was, or maybe we've gaslit ourselves, brainwashed ourselves here, but James Forrest was a sort of symbol of Celtic's decline almost last season. Like, oh, we've had to go and get bloody James Forrest. This is how bad everything's been. But now he's starting games and he's looking good. And you think to yourself, well, he's no really that lightning rod for everything that's wrong. In fact, he's almost a lightning rod for what Brendan Rodgers is actually good at.
Yeah, I think if he can I think it's crucial now that he stays fit, and I think it's up to Celtic to try and manage that. The difficulty is, once Lewis Palmer comes out the squad, we've only really got Maeda on the bench who's just coming back, but James Forrest was good again without being great. I think he was great last weekend, so if you can get the 60 minutes out of him or half an hour of him coming on, I think that's ideal, what we're looking for right now. I do worry that it'll get to a point where the board go, maybe we can get another year.
Like a new signing?
Another year or two out of him, and then they dish him out with a 3-year deal. You're like, why 3? One would be fine, but James Forrest, KÜHN and KYOGO were quite devastating towards Hibs. In that first half, they could have a couple of more goals, and it's just it's again this pre-season thing. Every single player seems to know what they're doing, and that's why we look so good. There's a real familiarity about this team where they know, I'm going here, he'll go there. And it was only a couple of players that really didn't perform on the day. I don't think it was anything to do with the tactics or the system. I think a couple of players just didn't perform, but everybody else was great.
There's maybe just something about there's maybe just some sort of special sauce in there with Brendan Rodgers and James Forrest. I know that there's several years in between the two stints that Brendan Rodgers has been at the club, but I think James Forrest's best work has been under Brendan Rodgers in kind of both spells. He seems to be in and performing and reliable and consistent under Brendan Rodgers. I know it took a long time last season, but it finally happened. So maybe there's just something in that. Maybe he just is capable of getting the best out of him, even though James Forrest obviously is now 33, getting towards the kind of top end of a winger. But if you can just put him in there and, as you say, just get 60 minutes out of him, you know what he's going to deliver. And one of the main problems with James Forrest over the years was that I think a lot of people maybe still hold, not against him, but you know what I mean, they still get something in the mind about him being generally quite inconsistent. If you look at under like Ronnie Dyla and all that, it basically just didn't turn up. So there's maybe a little bit of that. But under Brendan Rodgers, his first spell here Forrest was sensational, and he looks not maybe back to that, but a reliable presence in the squad.
And look, see, just for the interest of absolute balance, I'm just well aware that Jota would blow James Forrest absolutely out the water when it came to the winger stakes. You know, there are better wingers out there and that's the worry with James Forrest. He's come in and he's looked all right and he's done quite well, but as you said, he is a 33-year-old winger and you don't really get many of those. And all I'm saying is I'm happy with his contribution so far, but as you say, Millie, we don't want to put this message out there for the people that that are inside Celtic Park to go, do you know what? Well, maybe if the fans are happy with the James Forrest thing, then maybe we don't need to replace him so quickly.
Yeah, and it's why we again go back to this summer. We can't afford another summer where we don't do enough surgery, because at the end of the season, he could go. Greg Taylor could go. CASSSHHHSPUR could go. So we're going to be looking at 3 more players where we have to replace, and we'll be then looking at still not replaced Matt O'Reilly, have we? Still got Liam Scales at centre half. So Celtic need to do things now, because it can only help guys like James Forrest, Dyson Maeda, KÜHN, if they're not having to play every minute of every game and stretch themselves, because there's going to be a lot of games this season. There's no winter break. Celtic are going to get stretched. That team and Dyson Maeda and probably Bernardo at the weekend, that's fine. Underneath that, it starts to get thin.
And you were talking about the amount of games. That's pretty much why Callum McGregor called time in his Scotland career, you'd think.
Yeah, I definitely think so. We often make the joke, everybody knows how many games he plays, how consistent he is, but maybe at points in last season you're thinking, is it starting to catch up with him? When it was probably that injury, and you thought maybe he's going to get surgery in the summer, but it seems to be managed and they've got through it. But I thought he was decent for Scotland, but looking at the Nations League, and then it's a couple of years till the World Cup, and he must have got I wouldn't worry about sort of some injuries, but I will worry that if he is constantly going playing for Scotland, the neck injuries he's going to get from seeing the ball go from back to front. So I'm a Scotland fan, obviously, and me thinks, oh, well, I'm missing out on a good player. But I think with the the Celtic side, you're going, he needs this, man, and he probably could have went for another tournament, maybe another 2, knowing him. But I think this prolongs his Celtic career, and he does look tired, doesn't he? Like in his face sometimes when he came back, and just the sheer amount of football the guy plays, and to be at the intensity he's at, where he's the captain for Celtic for the last 3 seasons, and he's got to be first at all the drills. He's got to be pushing the team and constantly be at a consistent level, and he's got to go to his international and probably be one of the leaders there. It's a big toll on the guy, because Brendan Rodgers said it himself, he loves him, but he's very intense, so it'll take its toll.
I know they're 2 different things, but players are generally better at spotting when it's probably peaked for them at international duty, and it's maybe the right time to step away, because you wonder what else Callum McGregor can possibly do at Scotland. That's
you feel
2
that
tournaments.
Scotland team's like at the end of a cycle as well, don't you?
Potentially, yeah. And it's 2 tournaments they've qualified for, and that's the only ones they've played in since 1998. So you wonder, will Scotland keep that up? Seems maybe unlikely. At which point, Callum McGregor's 33, going into a World Cup. He's maybe get another 10 caps or something like that. The joints are starting to go, and it's starting to suffer for it. It's completely the right decision for me. It is tinged with sadness, as these things always are, but I think it's definitely the right decision.
Taking the Scott Brown route.
Yeah, and particularly in Callum McGregor's case, with the amount, as we've already acknowledged, the amount of football he plays, for him to continue international duty would just seem crazy, because there's no signs of him being in any way supported in his role at Celtic. I mean, Lord knows everyone's tried over the years.
Steve Clarke got a right good view of that absolute belter that he scored. As soon as he scored it, the camera panned to Steve Clarke in the crowd.
It was down the other side from us, and I was in the top tier at Easter Road, so it's one of those ones where as soon as it leaves your foot, you're sort of up off your feet. It was great. It just Hibs really poor. Is it KÜHN has the ball and there's 4 players round him, and he just passes it to Matt O'Reilly, and he's got acres of space, but the technique on it was absolutely brilliant, and it's one of those ones that keeper absolutely no chance. And it always seems to be the case, doesn't it, when there's been headlines about somebody like that sort of thing, where you're just thinking, it's called time in his international career, maybe it was time and all that. Then he pulls that out the bag, and you go, Steve Clarke will be raging. But I think for us, it's a blessing in disguise, because again, you see the guy. It's not just when he scores a goal like that, it reminds you what he can do. But when you see him in games like he was last week against Kilmarnock and like this one, there's so many balls that just fall in the midfield, and he's there just to take it away. That's not by luck, that's by design. He seems to be everywhere, and if he can prolong that a bit, he's got the passing ability, but the thing that will start to fail for him is the engine. If he calls time in his Scotland career, he can probably prolong that a bit for Celtic.
I think the only thing Celtic really lacked against Hibs was probably a bit of incisiveness, that cutting edge, because that in other circumstances, that to me could have been a 4, 5 or 6
easily,
game, especially in the first half. Hibs must have been really counting their blessings.
First half was excellent, but absolutely blew them away. And there was a little bit of a dip off towards maybe the last half hour. And I think Brendan Rodgers has acknowledged that since. He said that they started going too long a bit too early, and it stretched the game rather than connecting the game was what he the term he used anyway, and that wasn't what he wanted. I've noticed that there's a few complaints about how much Celtic dipped off in the last half hour, but what I would say about that is that blowing Hibs away in the first half and having the dip off in the second half, they don't exist completely independently of each other. They are related. So I think it's only a bit of human nature that you can maybe take the foot off the gas a wee bit after you think, well, this lot are going to do absolutely nothing.
They've not had a shot and goal.
Yeah, they've not had a shot and goal the entire time. So there's a little bit of that. I'm not making excuses for the team, but I also think it's probably directly related to what we've been talking about endlessly now, and it's the squad depth, right? So a common theme under Ange, a couple of seasons ago, was that he would push the team very, very hard. That's kind of like what modern football is these days, and especially with the 5 subs rule now, you can push the team very hard indeed, pressing constantly, constant forward momentum. Then you can afford to take off the entire midfield, freshen things up a bit, take off a couple of wingers, get 5 subs so you can basically do that, refresh, and go again. That's why we're getting so many late goals under Ange as well. But you look back then, and you had guys like Aaron Moy, who could come off the bench, make an impact. David Turnbull carried a goal threat when he came on. Even when Idah started to drift away from the team a little bit towards the end of Ange's time, he would be...
You still had him, Haksabanovic,
that's what I mean.
Jota, Maeda.
Yep, so you could turn to the bench and make meaningful changes. I don't think that's available for Brendan Rodgers at the moment. I just don't think that depth is there, because to take Brendan's word for it, as the debate happened last season as to how true it was, but this is still a very intense, high energy team, much like it was under Ange. So again, pushing the team very, very hard. You go to make those changes to keep things fresh. You turn around to the bench, it's not there. There's not terrible players. There are a couple of players here and there, but there's no...
Some terrible players.
Yeah. But there's no... The likes of, as I've already mentioned them, even guys like Yakimakis, like Juranovic, who kind of came off the bench a couple of times towards the end. There was some real quality there, and I just don't think it's there just now. So what we're doing is we're doing the same to teams, blowing them away quite early on, looking to freshen it up, and it's just not possible because the depth just simply isn't there.
Yeah, I think if we had got that third goal, maybe we might have seen changes a bit, but 2-0 is that sort of... Look, it was
the most dangerous lead.
Yeah, I didn't want to say it, but it's comfortable. But all it takes is Hibs hit the bar, and if that had gone in, they could have been back in the game. And you're looking at it 2-0, 60 minutes. There was that sort of lull in the game, and it was just prime for Adam Idah to come off the bench.
Yeah,
prime for Paulo Bernardo, who's fully match fit, to come off the bench. Prime for a full Dyson Maeda to come off the bench. But we simply don't have those options. Maeda came on, and it's unusual. You make one sub around the 60-minute mark, and it was a hot day. It was a hard graft out there. Second game of season, the team's not fully up to match fitness, and you're just looking about. Where's the players we can bring on? It's Dyson Maeda. Right, Paulo Bernardo came on, but you've seen the drop off with Yang and Mikey Johnston coming on, and KYOGO, while he was sharp again, he missed a couple of chances, and I just feel that away games is prime for Adam Idah. There was that point where Hibs kind of came into the game while not creating much, and it just gave Celtic that opportunity. If they had Adam Idah or somebody of that ilk to come on and go that wee bit more direct, not long, but just play it into him and hold it up. And Brendan Rodgers spoke a bit about that, KYOGO's movement, but I just feel like we just need a hand here. We're on the cusp of having a really good team. We just need that to get back to where we were last season, have Adam Idah, and then bring in an extra couple of players, because that game was sort of crying out for fresh blood. It had that game. Hatate was having a really, really poor game. One of those games he has every once in a while that reminds you that's why you're still here. He was really poor. It was only him and Liam Scales I thought were poor in the Celtic team, but I just didn't feel like there was that opportunity to go, he needs to come off, because I'm looking at it and going, Paulo Bernardo will come on, but he's barely even... He didn't feature at all until he came on. So I'm looking at him going, can we bring him on? Dyson, he'd be good to freshen up, but I want to bring him on up front and out wide, and I can only pick one, and he's just back from an injury. So we're starting to see that if one or two injuries, look, if one or two injuries happen across this Celtic team, if we injure a left back, a centre half, central midfielder, a winger, or a striker, any one of them, Celtic are going to be stretched, and so we need to do something about
Important
it.
games coming up. Hibs didn't look very good, did they, Stephen? That's
No.
It's no really.
Bit of understatement.
I know it's not looking good for your doppelganger.
No, a poor start, and Aberdeen look quite good.
Yeah.
They look as if they're going to kick on, because I remember hearing a Hearts fan on Sportsend, I think it was, saying that, like, quite confident, think we'll still finish third, but there's no way Hibs will be as bad as they were last season. It's not looking particularly great for them.
Malky's rubbing his hands in, he's getting closer to that dugout every day.
He's going, oh, I'm looking around here for an experienced manager. And they put their hand up. Oh, it's me again.
They won't be looking forward to come to Celtic Park next week.
Oh, no. Look, at Easter Road, I thought they looked determined to play themselves into trouble at all times. It looked as if they were shooting themselves in the foot at every available opportunity. Yeah, a couple of times. There was one that someone passed it straight to Forrest out in the left wing, and then he played it. He gave it away, but then that's the one that dropped to KYOGO as well. So really poor. I get that. I get the thing that managers say, that if you want to play a certain way, it's the manager's fault because you've urged them to play this way, and any mistakes are made, we trust them to just go again to make the decisions because I want them to play like that. But there comes a time where you have to adjust what you're doing, because if you're just doing the same thing over and over again and you can't get out your second half, don't get me wrong, this is largely down to Celtic as well, but Celtic weren't the surprise opposition on the day.
No.
It's not as if they were like just the tunnel. Out comes Callum McGregor. They knew they were going to be playing Celtic, so you would think they just need to sort of adjust their approach a wee bit, especially if they're playing themselves into bother time and time again.
Yeah, I was desperate for KYOGO to score. I think somebody said in the group chat he's not scored a league goal since October, and you're looking at going, come on, we need somebody else in there to help him. So I was desperate for him to score. He looked sharp. He just couple of misses.
I'm not doubting you there, right? But I'm just going to fact check that while you talk. Are you sure it's not an away league goal since October? You can't.
Sorry, did I not say that?
No,
a league goal.
A league goal.
This is August.
I know.
I
think more people will be talking about it being no scored for a year.
Sorry, a away league goal since October. So I can believe that because it was Adam Idah getting them towards the end. But I think we've seen what. In this game, I think Celtic were sharp, but we talked about it last week, but what you get having Kasper Schmeichel at Celtic Park, yes, teams are going to camp in, but seeing the away games, it's really stark how much he's going to improve Celtic's play because he can make those passes. The amount of times that he picked out Greg Taylor and Greg Taylor would give him the thumbs up, the amount of times he'd miss out passing it to Scales and he just went straight into the midfield and it bounced back. The calmness on the ball from him. There was two times in the second half where he went long and he gave the ball away. I think Hibs' opportunity when they hit the bar came from Kasper Schmeichel going long. He just tried to punt it to Idah and then he punted one out the park a couple of minutes later. Apart from that, his passing was so crisp. Always into players, always into the right player. And I thought, this is what managers talk about when they want somebody to be able to play with their feet. It just brings so much to the game. And we love Joe Hart. You can just see the difference it makes and how it can make Hibs. They don't have time to get back into shape, and it just means Celtic can get straight on them.
He's untested so far in terms of his shot stopping, but that's.
I don't think has he had an actual save to make.
There was
I mean something that's no right happening. Just have to catch.
You beat me to that. The one thing I can remember against Kilmarnock was somebody hit a kind of volley into the ground, and he just caught it in his body. But I love his attitude, Kasper Schmeichel, because he again untested in terms of his shot stopping. That will come, but that was the one thing that wasn't in doubt. Everyone worried about kind of his age. Is he maybe starting to creak? His agility a wee bit. Can he pass with the ball? The one thing no one really worried about was the shot stopping, because he's obviously a great keeper and has been for many years. But I do like that. The passing aside, because I think that's like already markedly better than Joe Hart was, but it gets thrown around about players a lot that they're a winner, they get this, they've got the right attitude, but you just need to watch that guy. And there was a video doing the rounds of him celebrating wildly with the fans. It's brilliant, and it's not like, I don't think that's just been that sort of
performative.
Performative sort of trite badge kissing. I don't think that's the case, because in pre-season there was a goal, I think it was against Man City, where he made the save and the ball kind of looped over him and it was heading towards the net. Liam Scales was chasing it in and he tried to kind of hook it off the line. He didn't quite make it. Scales maybe just hooked it into the roof of the net. Schmeichel was seething, absolutely furious that they had conceded a goal in pre-season. So that's why this isn't a performance to get the fans, oh, love me, I just want to be popular as the new keeper. Pathetic. None of that is fake at all. This is, people say he's a winner, right? And then you look at it, he's only won 2 trophies in his entire career, which is impressive because
one was the Premier League.
One was the Premier League and one was the FA Cup with Leicester. But you know what I mean? In a near 20-year career, he hasn't won all that much. What makes him a winner is how he plays the game and how he relates to his teammates.
Right, there was a leak of apparently a new kit coming out for Celtic. 2 leaks, some sort of retro effort apparently coming out in a couple of weeks or whenever they're going to bring it out. And the 3rd kit that was leaked. Now we're going to wrap up. We're going to wrap up with a question for you guys, right? What are we going to see first? A brand new kit or a brand new player? And when I say brand new, I don't mean somebody that's been on loan, an ex-Celt or bringing back. What is going to be dropped first? The brand new kit or a brand new player, Stephen?
So what are we sitting at just now? We'll strike Sinisalo from the record because it's basically a player in the same position. How many positions have we signed here? It's goalkeeper and central midfield.
Yes.
Bernardo. So we've got two signings effectively there.
And we've got 2 strips.
And we've got 2 kits. So it's a race to number 3.
So the club going to sell us a new kit or are we going to get a brand new player?
It's going to be kit. It's going to be kit.
Right.
Very confident.
Kit. It's got to be kit, eh?
Because the next player is probably going to be Adam Idah. Okay, the final question. By the time we're all sat here next week, will we have a new footballer to talk about, a new Celtic signing?
Yes. Well, does Adam Idah count in that?
No.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he
does
does.
he?
Yeah.
Okay. So, yes, I think the Adam Idah deal will be done. It seems inevitable. Honestly, it doesn't bear thinking about if Celtic somehow managed to
it'll be done. It's
goose this up.
It'll be done. I just don't see how. Look, I know I'm. One of the most famous things I've ever said in this podcast is no way Brendan Rodgers leaving Celtic, right? And then the very next day he was out the door. But I'm saying the same thing again.
While you were saying that, he was probably loading up a moving van.
I know. He's probably got the podcast on the way down to Leicester. Listen to it going, oh God. But I just don't see any way Celtic make a balls up of this Adam Idah thing. But listen, thank you so much for joining us.
There's your clip right
there. If you like this podcast and you want another one of these, we can get it on Patreon, little midweek drop. We call that the Breakfast of Champions podcast. If the adverts are annoying you, you can sort that out on Patreon as well. If you want match reaction to every single Celtic game, patreon.com/20minutetims. The link is absolutely everywhere. See you next week.